Welcome to the daily Tokyo Hockey Show on the FIH YouTube channel. Each day at this time, I'll be joined by a stellar lineup from the world of hockey. From across the globe, respected and renowned players and coaches will be offering insights, analysis, and the occasional anecdote to offer a different, unique, and entertaining perspective on the hockey competitions at the 32nd Olympiad. Today, I'm absolutely delighted to welcome our second set of guests, South African legend Marcia Cox, who played 347 times for her country, including at the 2004, 2008 and 2012 Olympic Games. Hi, Marcia.
Hi, Sarah. Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely great to see you. And then we're also joined by former star of Great Britain and England and current FIH Director of Sport and Development, John Wyatt, who played in the 1996 and 2000 Olympics. Hi, John.
Hi, Sarah. Greetings from Tokyo.
Great to see you. And as you've just quite rightly pointed out, you are there in Tokyo. So we're going to come to you first. I mean, I've just joined the show having watched the vast majority of the opening ceremony, which I found, in parts incredibly emotional. I just wondered if you could give us a little bit of a flavour of what it's like out there at the moment. I mean, we're about to start the competition proper. We've had this opening ceremony going on. What's it like out in Tokyo at the moment?
It's a real mix of huge anticipation and great excitement, and as ever in Olympic Games, the volunteers that are everywhere are always smiling, always can't do enough for you, and incredibly enthusiastic. The facilities out here, the pitches, the stadium that they've created for hockey are just fantastic. Absolutely amazing. And then you see the athletes, and they're obviously incredibly excited and all ready to go. So there's this kind of buzz of excitement with the games about to start. And then you're in the stadium and looking around, and then there's a sort of tinge of sadness that there aren't going to be the people in the stadium to create the atmosphere that we're all so used to seeing in Olympic Games. And it's sad for the people of Japan, because they've all been looking forward to the games for so long, and they obviously had the year's postponement, and then it's finally here, and you could see the excitement building, and then really sadly they're not going to be able to come and experience it, and experience that incredible Olympic feeling firsthand. So it's a real mix, actually. It's also incredibly hot and very, very humid, and that's going to pose its own challenges. And obviously, there are the unique situation that we're in terms of the pandemic, and the daily challenges that creates for everyone, for the athletes, just like it has for all of us around the world for the last year or so. So it's going to be a unique games. I think the hockey is going to be fantastic and incredibly high quality. We'll come on to that a bit later, I'm sure, but it's also going to be different for all the reasons that we know.
Absolutely. I mean, just bringing Marcia in on that now. Marcia, if you were an athlete going to these games, what would your thoughts be? I mean, would you be worried about it, or would you just have now put to bed any worries about crowds, lack of crowds, that sort of thing, and you'd just be focusing purely on the hockey?
Sarah, I think it depends on the country that you're from as well. And just speaking from a South African perspective, I know that we've been deprived of match practice and deprived of playing games just because of the consequences of what's going on in the world and restrictions placed on travel. So I think that the hunger and the drive to play overrides any fear or anxiety that you potentially have. I think just wanting to get on the field and play in the competition, that exactly like what John said for the Japanese people, but I think for the players in particular, you work for 4 years leading up to this moment. There's the stress and the anxiety of selection leading into it, as you get closer and the squads get cut down, there's this massive build-up. You know what you're training for. And I think that at the end of it, you go to play. And of course, the crowds play a massive role in your experience. But at the end of the day, your job is to play. And that's what you equip yourself for 4 years leading up to it. So I think that to be honest, I think that just the drive and the desire to get on the pitch and get the games going and, hear that whistle blow and know that you're there to play at the Olympic Games, I think that is going to just override any other feeling in the world.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, that mirrors an opinion that I heard from Delfina Marino from Argentina, who said, look, an Olympics is an Olympics. And we need this. We need these games. Coming back, John, just to before we finish up on the organisation, there's been all sorts of stories in the media about the risks of major sporting events and everything, but this Games has got unstinting praise from many, many quarters about the incredibly high standards of hygiene and safety and organisation. And a lot of that is down to the vast army of volunteers. Again, what are your observations about everything that's going on around the stadium and how people are being looked after as they arrive in these circumstances?
Yeah, I mean, as you'd expect, really, it's incredibly efficient. And they've been very, very clear, both the IOC and also the organising committee have been very, very clear, publishing in their playbooks, what is allowed, what is not allowed, what is expected, what's not expected. And everyone obviously wants to stay healthy, both for themselves, but also for everyone else around them and for the local population. So, everyone is absolutely abiding by the letter of the law, if you like, and therefore it feels very safe. I have to say. And yes, you get tested every day, and okay, maybe that takes 3 or 4 minutes that you wouldn't normally get tested, but actually, 3 or 4 minutes to be sure that you're clean and safe and healthy, and that everyone else around you is a tiny price to pay, and actually means that when you are interacting with people and everyone is wearing masks all the time, indoors and outdoors. So it does feel very safe and very, very well organized, which is fantastic. I also wanted to just pick up on a point that Marsha made about just coming to a game, just playing, because teams just haven't played. And, some of the teams have had the chance to. Obviously, there was the Euros last month, so the European teams have had some competition, but many of the non-European teams really haven't played for months. And we've had quite a few practice matches going on this week, which is normal before a games, people wanting to kind of get rid of the jet lag or the travel or whatever, and start to get into the experience the pitch and get into the Olympic speed of matches. But the level of competition and the kind of the effort that's being put into those practice matches, they look like full-on test matches. Nice. And it's just because people haven't played and they're just desperate to play, and that's fantastic to see. So I think the hockey's going to be extraordinary. I think it's going to be absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, sure, some of the comments again when we've been speaking to athletes about the last few months, this time has given athletes a chance to almost decompress a little bit from the high pressures that they've been used to in the past. So there is a new hunger and a new vitality about everything. So yeah, we can expect some really exciting games. As you say, we'll come on to that. I was just going to talk a little bit, Marsha, about the opening ceremony. I mean, both you and John will have experienced lots of opening ceremonies in the past. What are athletes feeling on that evening of the opening ceremony when they know that the next day, or certainly within the next 48 hours, they're going to be in action? What are the overriding emotions?
Well, I think if I just look at my own experience, my first Olympic Games in Athens, we played early the next morning. So we didn't go to the opening ceremony. And while you do have mixed feelings about it, because of course that is something, it's a highlight of the event for everybody. You want to be part of it, but you're there to perform. So you have to focus on your performance the next day. With what has happened, and we saw a lot of the delegates, like there were very small teams from all of the countries. So that, they had very small delegations. So I think that in one way, for this Olympics, missing the opening ceremony in the sense of missing walking down through the stadium and experiencing that moment probably is a little bit more, it probably has unified the teams a little bit more, because so many more athletes are back in the village watching it, and you actually get to watch it. You get to see what's on show, whereas you don't get to see that when you're marching on. But it's just so exciting because it just marks the opening of the games. You've built up for this moment. It's now here. And that is an official way of acknowledging that right, it's time. We put our focus, like, if we thought we were focused, that wasn't it. Now is the moment, like, this is the sort of that line in the sand that says the games have officially started. And seeing that flame, I think it gives so much inspiration and so much motivation to any player.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the South African team, the goalkeeper, now I've got to get this right, Fumalela Mabandi, was the flag bearer today.
Yes.
How do you think she would have been feeling? Because, I mean, that's a pretty special moment, isn't it?
I think that she's extremely honored. I think she's such a lovely person. I think that she is absolutely honored to have this role tonight, and not only because of the journey that the South African women's hockey have had to undergo in getting to the games, and then having, it's a massive deal for women's hockey to have the first ever female women's hockey player as a flag bearer. I think that is a huge honor, and I know that she flies our flag high, literally, and I think that is her extra motivation to perform well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's something that I know that you're very passionate about, as is your mother as well. You've got this legacy of helping South Africa develop its hockey. So it must be of personal pride to you as well to see, a female hockey player at the front of the South African team. That's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this also just shows what hockey means for our country, and that is something big.
Yeah, absolutely. We've also got Felix Denayer of Belgium and Manpreet Singh of India also chosen as flag bearers. John, this has to be good for the profile of hockey, right? There they are parading our sport.
Absolutely. And I'm sure we all spotted, the little touches where they pulled out the different sports during the opening ceremony. We all spotted the little clips of hockey, and as we all do as hockey fans, as well as being hockey players. So yeah, it's fantastic. And yeah, I think Marsha's right. I think there would have been a really collective enjoyment of the Olympic opening ceremony experience in the village this time, because the vast majority of athletes were there. Where usually, as Marsha said, the vast majority would be parading, and parading is amazing, but you don't actually get to see the opening ceremony. I mean, the drone display that happened tonight, where I was just incredible, incredible, and the way the logo kind of turned into the world, and brilliant. Well, you wouldn't have seen that if you were an athlete, because you'd have been in the holding pen or whatever, on your way getting ready to walk in.
You would have been doing the good old fashioned hurry up and wait, and wait. Yeah.
It's actually a point Alex Danson made in yesterday's show. Actually, she said, this is going to be the first Olympics where she's actually realised there's something going on other than hockey. And Marsha, this is only your second Olympics in that situation, isn't it? So, apart from the hockey, what else are you looking forward to seeing?
Well, there are a variety of things, I was just explaining about the Olympic Games to my 5-year-old daughter, because we were in Rio together. I was an official for the FIH, and she was there as a baby. So just showing her some of the pictures of the things that she experienced, but we were really focused on hockey because we had to be at the hockey every single day. And now getting to, explain what the games are about, and it just rejuvenated my passion for the Olympics, and where sort of my aspiration started, watching in '92, as a little girl. So I think I hope that I've sort of passed that on a little bit. She's a little too young, but I see that she gets excited whenever gymnastics comes on. So that's going to have to be something that I watch. But I'm also looking forward to swimming and, of course, the track and field.
Obviously, yes, absolutely. John, just before we move on, the Olympics, how important is it for hockey? It's, as Marsha says, it's something that as a young hockey player, you see hockey at the Olympics. It's just such an important event in our calendar, isn't it?
It really is, because it gives us a window into non-hockey fans and the non-hockey playing public. We're fortunate, and we have some competitions now that do get and are starting to get an increasing amount of TV coverage outside of the Olympics. But the Olympics at the moment is by far the biggest shop window, if you like, to show the speed, the skills, the amazing teamwork that you see every match in hockey. and show that to the rest of the world, and people who've maybe never seen it before. There's just like there are some sports that maybe, I can't wait to see sport climbing, because seeing these guys and girls just literally flying up a cliff is just extraordinary, and I'd never really seen that until it became an Olympic sport. So there will be many people around the world who feel like that about hockey. They'll see it for the first time and go, wow, that's really amazing. I hadn't seen that before. I wasn't aware it was like that. So yeah, it's really important for us. And as I say, it just gives us a chance to showcase our athletes and our sport to a much wider audience than we do, when it's purely a hockey event.
Yeah, absolutely. Just before we move off your sort of memories of Olympics and Olympics of the past, I wondered if you could both just take a second to think about, if you were asked to sum up your most evocative moment from a games you've participated in, what would it be? And we'll come to Marsha first, just to put you on the spot.
Wow, I was hoping John would go first.
I'm happy to. For
please
me,
go.
Go on then, hand over to John.
Go.
Really, really easy. So, very fortunate enough to go to the Atlanta Olympics in '96, and we did go to the opening ceremony. And who is going to light the flame is always that sort of secret, isn't it? It's like the best kept secret. No one really knows. Lots of rumors flying around, and this was the case in Atlanta, and no one knew who it would be. And so we did our holding pen, and then our run and stop that we were talking about, and then you come out into the Olympic Stadium and you parade, and it's just incredible. And then everyone's waiting and they're chatting. All the athletes are chatting, and who's it going to be and who's it going to be. And as you'll remember, the flame, they ended up kind of came to the top of the steps, and who was going to light it? And then the spotlight appeared, and there was Muhammad Ali, and there was genuinely a wave of emotion that just went across. I'm getting my spine tingling now, hairs on the back of my neck. It was just extraordinary. It was honestly, it was like everyone just got this sort of electric shock, and just the roar, and he was just an athlete who transpired his entire sport, and it was bigger than sport probably as well. And to see someone of that status just suddenly stood there and tinged with sadness because of his illness, but it was just extraordinary, and I will never forget that. And whenever I think about it and whenever I talk about it, I feel like I do now, and I get very emotional. And that really says to me, here we are. This is an Olympic Games. This is what it's all about. And it was a very, very special moment. I was very lucky.
Oh, Marsha.
Wow.
Can you
well, I don't have any story there that comes close to that. I think that's a really special moment. And yeah, I don't know. I think for me, like the Olympic Games has just been each games was so different, and there were so many different special moments. But I don't think I could get any story that comes anything close to that emotion, because I even felt the emotion, John. I was getting a bit emotional. But yeah, I think missing the opening ceremony in Athens and then being part of it in Beijing, that was really amazing and really, really special. And they also, you were just wowed every second of the time, that you didn't know where to look, and before you knew it, the flame was lit, and the games they had started. So yeah, I think that was a really, really special moment. But I think Muhammad Ali trumps it all.
Muhammad Ali wins, doesn't he?
It's interesting. So we talked earlier about, do you go to the opening ceremony or not if you're playing the following day? And all of the coaches, all of the performance guys would say, absolutely not. You need to get your nutrition, you need to get your rest. Absolutely right. Having had the experience that I had in Atlanta, when we went to Sydney, we had exactly it wasn't quite the same, but we were playing on day one, and we were playing in the afternoon. So we weren't playing in the morning the following day, but we were playing in the afternoon. And we had a long debate as a squad as to whether we therefore should go to the opening ceremony or not. And those of us who were in Atlanta, because of that amazing experience we had, and it just smacked you in the face and just went, you're here, you're at the Olympics, you've been training and preparing for years, and certainly months and months, those last 6 months are just chaos, aren't they? You're just training all the time, then selection, and then you're going. And if you're not careful, you can you're playing hockey, training hockey, playing hockey, and suddenly it's the first match of the games, and you almost haven't realized that you've arrived. And for us, that opening ceremony just went bang, you're here. And so we in Sydney we did parade. And yes, you know, it's probably 1 o'clock in the morning by the time you get back, and therefore sleep wasn't ideal. But for that one first match, we you know, the adrenaline and the fact that we were so up for it because of what we'd experienced the night before in the opening ceremony, meant that we really did perform. And yeah, we were a bit tired, but then we had a rest day before we then play the next game. So it really influenced our my second decision, if you like, when I was in the second Olympics, what happened to me in my first. And I'm really glad that we did March, and I think it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
I'm sure Felix Tanaya and Manpreet Singh will be hoping that happens tomorrow as well, because obviously in just a few hours, John will be getting up again because it's the start of the actual hockey competition. All the men's teams are in action, 4 of the women's teams. When we spoke yesterday to Alex Danson and Lauren Moyer, we spoke about the women's event, and we agreed that everybody was beatable, even the mighty Dutch women. Particularly given the circumstances of the last sort of 18 months. First of all, John, as you look at the men's competition, what are your initial thoughts? Would you say that this is a really unpredictable competition this year?
Yeah, here's a simple answer. Yeah, I think it's really really open, particularly because some of the nations have managed to play more matches, some haven't. You know, it's pretty unknown how Australia, New Zealand will turn up, because, you know, unfortunately their Olympic preparation has basically been playing each other 5 or 6 times, because that's all that their government travel corridor allowed. You know, India have hardly had a match, and will be strong here, not only because they're a strong team, but also because of the climate. That will, you know, that's something they'll be more used to, because it really is hot and sticky here. The Euros were more open, and you know, maybe there was some results that people weren't expecting in the men's Euros this year than maybe they would have been previously. So I can see, you know, 7, 8 teams who are definitely there or thereabouts, and it's really difficult to pick someone. Where I think maybe a year ago, and maybe this is where, you know, some people would say maybe, you know, the Belgians were that much stronger than everyone else a year ago. They were, you know, they just seemed to be a level above. But you know, as the Euros proved now, it's now very, very even, and there are, as you say, everyone can beat everyone on their day. So I think it's wide open, actually. And you know, I look at the fixtures for tomorrow, and you know, first match on Japan, the hosts, you know, winners of the most recent Asian Games. So you know, maybe that was unexpected, but they're clearly strong. Taking on Australia, which is unknown, you know, I'm sure they'll be strong, but you know, they haven't had a lot of matches recently. And then next up, you got Belgium playing the Netherlands. I mean, what a heavyweight clash to start on morning one of the Olympic Games. So it's really, really wide open, but really exciting.
Yeah, we'll come back to a couple of those games in a minute, but Marcia, you obviously have some insight into the challenges faced by teams such as South Africa and Canada, who haven't had the benefit of, for example, FIH Pro League in the last few months. They also haven't really had a continental event such as the Euros or the, as John mentioned, the sort of the matches between the 2 Oceania teams. How are they going to mitigate those sort of, I'll call them disadvantages, but how are they going to mitigate those circumstances?
You know, I think it's sort of a double-edged sword, because I think that they've had the opportunity to also focus more internally. And we were just chatting about a few things the other day. And when you look at a lot of the top athletes, when they speak about their Olympic experiences, and especially those that have won gold, a lot of them reflect about their performance on the day was all about themselves. And I think that the teams who have lacked the competition have had the time to actually focus on themselves and focus on their process and keep it very internal in a way. And that focus, I think, could also be a huge advantage for them. So where we see disadvantages, I think that they've managed to find the advantages in it. And we've seen it in previous events, previous hockey specific events where we've gone to World Cups and you see teams that you haven't seen them compete because they've kept their preparation very closed, and suddenly they're playing in semifinals. We've seen that in the past. So I think that this Olympic Games is going to be very similar to that, where actually you have more teams that are going to surprise you. So like if we're looking in particular at South Africa and Canada, I think that they are also teams that the more they play, the better they get. So if they just start off solid, they're just going to grow into the event and grow into the tournament, which is going to, it's going to be a huge danger for other teams that maybe feel a lot more confident as they come into the game. So I think it's going to be a mental games scenario throughout the competition. But I think, I don't think that you can underestimate anybody, even those who have got 0 games under their belts coming into this event.
Sure. And I mean, one of the advantages, as you say quite rightly, is secrecy. That Belgium will know all about the Netherlands and Germany and vice versa, but who knows what's been happening to South Africa or to Canada. One thing we do know about South Africa is that there's been a couple of injuries. So, how's that going to impact the squad?
Well, what I know is that they have worked really well as a bigger squad. So they did sort of always prepare for these types of risk factors. And having replaced 3 players, the 3 replacements have been with the group quite early, so it doesn't create any hiccups. I don't believe, and I think that is also, nobody knows what they've been doing, but it also shows you that they have been doing a lot, and a lot of it is about their process and about them as a team and what they are going to achieve, and one game at a time. So I think that the fact that it was quite easy for them to manage 3 replacements shows you that there's a lot more strength in that group than we think.
Absolutely. I mean, I personally am just going to miss Clinton Panther because I think he's got the best name in the tournament. But I just wondered as well whether it also acts as a little bit of extra motivation. And I'm sort of going across sports here slightly, but we saw at the recent UEFA football, the injury to the Danish player actually really spurred the rest of the team on to punch above their weight. Is that something that you foresee happening a little bit as well, maybe? Let's do it for the guys back home.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, knowing what your teammates have gone through and the heartache when they've got to pack their bag and go back home instead of getting on the plane and heading to Tokyo with you, I think that it does add extra motivation.
Yeah, absolutely. John, just looking at one of the matches in particular tomorrow, and you actually touched on it when you were talking earlier. Netherlands take on Belgium, and Marsha has mentioned momentum. It's really important for teams to get off to a good start, but one of those teams is probably going to come away from that match disappointed. How important is that first match experience? And, if we look at that match in particular, how important is they come away with a win?
Obviously, you'd rather win than lose. But, to sound a bit cliched, but you don't win an Olympic medal on day one. And so, there are teams who will qualify for the quarterfinals, the semi-finals, may even qualify for the final and may even win it, who don't win all of their matches in the pool stage and maybe don't win their first match in the pool stage. So, of course, you want to try and get away to a good start. And if you do, then that's a real positive, and you take confidence from that and you build from that. But they will all have thought about this and prepared mentally for all of the what if scenarios, and that will include what if we get off to a great start and win, what if we play reasonably well and we get a draw, and what if it doesn't work out for us, it's not our day and we lose. Well, you take the positives from it, don't you? You look at your performance and you take the fact that, well, it's better to lose today than lose in a knockout match. So it's the same across all sports. Of course you want to win all matches, but it's pretty rare that any team, particularly in a 7 or 8 match tournament like we have, will go through and win every match. So how you deal with not winning, or even how you deal with a bad quarter or a bad half or a couple of goals going in that are a bit unfortunate, whatever it is, you have to have resilience. The team who win the gold medal will be the team who can bounce back and react well when things don't go well, not the team who fly high when things are going everything's going perfectly, because things won't go perfectly for the entirety of the tournament.
Yeah, and also, John, like we were saying, like it is always the case that everybody is super hyped for the first game. You know, you've had this opening ceremony, you wowed, you dying to play. This is your moment, and now it's and you play the first game, and then you play the second game, and then as you're going into your third and your fourth, like the engine starts losing a little bit of steam, and those are the games that count the most for teams that are going to want to go through to the semifinals and the finals. That middle stage is going to be the most important part of this tournament. Oh, like you said, you imagine that everybody has prepared for the what if scenarios at the beginning, but I think more important than how well your opening game goes, it's more how you do in game 3 and 4.
Yeah, well, and most importantly, how you do in the knockout games.
Yeah, of course.
Obviously, when it gets to knockout games, but that's when the teams who win these tournaments are the teams who improve and peak and play their best hockey in games 5, 6, 7, or 6, 7, 8. Sorry, quarterfinal, semi-final, final. It's not the team who plays the best on day one.
Brilliant. Guys, we're going to have to wrap it up there. I've got heaps of questions to ask you. So luckily you're both coming back and taking another starring role. But John, thank you very much for your insight. I think a couple of hours sleep for you now.
Maybe, well, hopefully a few more than that. But it'll be an early start tomorrow morning. And then first match on is at 9:30. So
brilliant. And Marcia, are you going to put those glasses on just to wish your boys good luck against GB tomorrow?
Of course. And what we love about the Olympic rings the most is that, of course, it's the colours of the South African flag.
Absolutely. Thank you both very, very much indeed. And thank you very